Hi, I'm Eve Fisher, and I'm a real estate agent in San Francisco with Compass. Today, we're going to talk about the secret language of listings, reading between the lines, trying to figure out what the listing agent really means. Of course, there's a lot about this in popular culture. We talk about if it's cozy, that means it's actually tiny. If it needs slight repairs, that means that it's falling down. But of course, in San Francisco, we have our own idiosyncrasies, our own language that listing agents use to describe a house. So the first thing, if it says that it's an investment opportunity, that almost always means that it's tenant occupied. And I encourage you to either speak to a tenant lawyer or to look up tenant laws in San Francisco because they're quite robust. Sometimes you can't get a loan on a property. If you're an all cash buyer, that's not a problem. But if you need to get a loan, there's a couple of things you need to look out for. First of all, if it says major repairs needed, a lot of times a lender will not loan on a property that cannot be habitable. Also, if it says contractor special or investors welcome, or more obviously, if it says you cannot enter for safety reasons or hard hats needed, you're most likely not going to be able to get a loan on that property. There's something called BMR. You probably see properties that look amazing and cost something like $463,000. This is a program called Below Market Rate. It is administered by the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. It's for first-time home buyers, and you have to be income eligible, and also involves a lottery. So I do recommend that you look that up if you think that might be something that you qualify for. BOM means back on the market. Sometimes that is the fault of the property. There was some quirk that meant that the buyers couldn't get a loan. But it can also be simply that the buyers got cold feet. So it isn't naturally or automatically a disqualifier. Now, sometimes it says that there are approved plans for the property. This means that they have architecture developed plans that have been approved by the San Francisco Building Department. Of course, you'll want to look through disclosures and confirm that that has been. But my biggest pet peeve is when they show the pictures of the proposed development and not the actual property that's there. And even worse, when the square footage is reflective of the approved plans and not reflective of the property actually there. That is indicated when you see a property listed for, say, $1 million that says that it's 4,000 square feet. When in reality, it just means that there are plans approved by the city or sometimes just drawn up by an architect for a 4,000 square foot house that may cost $3 million to build. Who knows? Now, how can you tell if a property doesn't have parking if that's not readily apparent? One thing is if it says that it is very convenient to public transportation, if it says that bike parking is ample, or if it says that there is convenient street parking. If a listing says that there is bonus space, that usually means that it's not permitted, i.e., it is expanded without the city knowing about it. It doesn't have legal clearances, height clearances, it's not up to code, etc. They can't count that in the square footage. That being said, some listing agents do count the bonus space in the square footage. So that is something that we would talk about in terms of what's the legal space, what are the ramifications of that, and that's something you could also speak to a lawyer about. Tandem parking means that as opposed to the parking spots being side by side, they're one after another. That's not always a bad thing if both of those spots are yours, but if one spot is your neighbor and one spot is you, then you need to move your car every time they want to get out or vice versa. Some people resolve this by putting their keys in the garage so that their neighbor can move without them. Some decide not to use the space at all. Sometimes the neighbor doesn't have a car and you have no problem. But this is something you want to come into eyes wide open because I have some clients like doctors that's a no-go for them. Totally non-negotiable. They need to be able to pull out their car without any delays. Then finally, if it says needs TLC or sometimes if it says amazing architectural details or been in the same family for 50 years. You know that it needs everything, could mean anything from needs new tile in the bathroom to the furnace is 70 years old or the plumbing needs an entire redo. That's where you'll want to go with your agent, go through the disclosures. If there is not an inspection provided by the seller, you'll want to order your own inspection, potentially bring by a contractor so that you can get a real idea of what it is going to take to bring the home up to your standard. That is just a short video about what to expect, what you can see in San Francisco home listings, sort of behind the scenes on what you might see. Of course, you'll always want to talk to a lawyer about some of these aspects, especially tenant rules. And you'll want to talk to your agent, hopefully me, about what these things actually mean. It doesn't always mean if it says that there's convenient street parking, that there's no parking. But a lot of times these can be clues to help you understand what sort of property you're looking at. Again, my name is Eve, and I'm a real estate agent in San Francisco.